Good morning, everybody. This is Mark, and we're back here for the morning call. I am here for Scott because I live in the city. It's a little easier for me to make it in on a nice snowy day in New York City. Not too bad outside, but if you can obviously stay home, it's probably the better move either way. Enjoy the snow, hopefully. So this market, we didn't start off with the bang. I think a bunch of us, myself included, thought we were going to. Basically the stats were saying that it should be an up day, and it was not. We obviously gapped down a little bit at the open or pre-market, and you had a bunch of the high betas come in pretty quickly, very early. A bunch have recovered. I think the majority of it, I personally am not very scared by this. I just think it's really very little. I think real money's not back until next week, personally. And you could get some tax selling. A lot of people have had a lot of gains this past year and have not really wanted to hold on. Didn't want to sell towards the end of the year, waited to the first of the year. It could happen today, even though we're up a little bit today, maybe a little bit next week. But I think overall, these trends don't just change on the dime. So if we do get a drastic pullback, I still think it's viable. Certainly, it's just a matter of how they trade. You don't have to be so aggressive if you don't want to be. If your conviction isn't so heavy on the long side, that's fine also. We have good trades on the long. Certainly there's some good trades in the short. But I'm a trader that really sticks with the trend overall, and the trend is your friend, and it continues to be that way. Let's go on with a few stocks. You definitely had a few decent moves yesterday. Solars, I think, were the standout sector. CSIQ was probably the strongest out of them, that broke to new highs very aggressively with huge volume. That's a good sign for the new year, certainly, and a good sign for that stock. And really the sector overall. SCTY was another one that broke and traded and closed above probably about a 2-week high, and possibly looking for that next 65 level in the cards. And then you can, SPWR, TSL, they moved pretty nicely. Also FSLR, though, the other one that quite frankly hit a little resistance right here. I think it's going to make another, digestion, and then it could make a move to 60 very quickly. So certainly keep it on the radar, this sector. It's one to watch. Apple had a downgrade yesterday, I think, from Wells Fargo. Definitely got hit, but not a whole lot of damage. But really, we basically almost have filled that gap. Maybe we're going to from the China Mobile news. We'll have to see how that plays out. Technically, it's not a great pattern, but it's Apple. I think there's a lot more to come from a product sense this year, so I'm not too worried about it. I think it is viable on dips, but wait for technical setups on any time frame. Right now, it's sitting on the 21-day roughly. It's not a great pattern, but it's tradable both ways at this point in time. Tesla has been really weak. Yesterday could have made a little bit of reversal, possibly. It's trying to regain a key moving average. We'll have to wait and see. It's getting tight. 149, 151 breaks out of that range to some extent. I think that's the way it's going to go, at least temporarily. Netflix, heading down. Could hit its. It looks like it's 8-day moving average. Could get to, or no, maybe it's a 50-day. We'll have to wait and see. Yeah, the 50-day moving average. We'll have to wait and see. You have to see if Icon's going to sell. If he holds, I think it's going to get back into play. The Chinese sector was also another industry that had some strength. You had Baidu getting to new highs, even though it obviously had a very violent move from 174 all the way to 180. Definitely you have to have conviction on your trades, and you have to have a strong stomach to hold some of these stocks accordingly. YY was decent, little breakout. Kihu, it's trying. It's not quite ready yet. Yoku on that front looks okay and looking to break out. So Sinus, Sohu also looks grinding a little higher. So they look okay and they look decent. Amazon taking a break. Visa, MasterCard basically taking a break. The banks, besides BAC, that really was a standout yesterday, and that was on an upgrade. And BAC is actually at new highs. I can't say yearly highs, but new from last year's highs at this point. So it looks good. It looks like there's some more continuation that's in the cards. You probably have to go to your weekly or monthly to see the next level that has any sort of relevance accordingly. 3Ds, relatively strong. Obviously, the two leaders are DDD and SSYS, still grinding higher. But VJet woke up a little bit yesterday, which is nice, above 41. We were talking about it in the chat. It had some real volume yesterday. It should have some continuation, I think, to about 45, 47 level. It's a momentum stock, so the key is this thing can easily overshoot to the upside if it really wants to. It's just a matter of how much patience you have on the play. ONVO, also another one that had a little bit of an uptick 2 days ago and had some continuation yesterday. And then XONE, which is, I think, a lagger, but it's getting to a point where above 65 gets a little interesting again, at least from that sector point of view. You had some materials, I think, that were strong. You had, what was it, WL? I thought some of the materials were strong. MCP, some of the rare earths, they had, I think there was a top pick for an analyst yesterday. So they got over some key moving averages, had some big volume. We'll have to wait and see. This stock is obviously not in play at all in 2013. We'll see if it's going to be, I know it's a trader's favorite. It's just a matter of it's probably got to get a little higher before it really gets interesting. But it could begin to fill that gap. It's at this point 7 is almost that gap. So little back and filled, little digestion might be a little bit interesting for the stock overall across the board. Some weak side, we saw LinkedIn obviously broke through a key moving average 200-day, really closed right at the 200-day. So not as much concern. It's really 200 is the line in the sand at this point in time. It's really been lagging. But in the past, this has been the place I've been buying it. Even though I got caught in it yesterday, and that happens. That's part of the game. And at this point, I'm just in options. I'm not really in the stock. I'm gonna let a setup happen a little better, or at least a little bit better technical setup for me before I really re-enter it on any sort of conviction level besides just a trade. So that's from that point of view. Yelp, I think, is fine. Looks pretty good to me. Another day or two, and I think it's probably going to move above 70 very quickly. You just got to keep it on the radar. Zillow looks okay. Tried to test new highs, new 2-month highs, and came back, had a little resistance, which is pretty normal for the stock as long as it holds above roughly 78. I think it's fine. Trulia looking interesting again. Has some key moving averages to contend with. We'll have to wait and see how that works, and we'll go from there. Overall, guys, given a general tune of the market, I don't think anything has changed. I really don't. I think you had some, auto sales today. I think they were pretty strong on the Chrysler side, so maybe Ford and GM do something. I don't think anything's changed. I think we're going to start off the beginning of the year. I think Monday next week will be an up week regardless. And I think this year is going to be a good year. I think this year is going to bring a little bit more gyrations than last year in the sense of we're going to have, whether we have that 10% pullback, whether we have that 7% pullback, you're going to have a little bit more of a downside that's going to have a snapback reaction than necessarily just a grind a little higher with very little fanfare and very little catching people the other side on the long side. That's really was last year. I think you got to be a little bit more careful this year, certainly a little bit more stock specific accordingly. I know Scott put out his predictions, and it's certainly on our website, and I think it's for another few days at that price, and then we're going to be raising the prices. So if you still want it, please look at the website. I think it's important, and it's obviously something he's put a lot of thought into, so I think it's key to look at and take notice to if you haven't already subscribed to it. I know this morning we have FEYE, which is a security company, data security, which obviously has been in the news huge recently with the Target and other hackers that are happening. It's becoming much more prevalent. This stock beat earnings handily. It's at 50 at new highs, certainly, from since it's been open in, I think it looks like October, September. So keep it on the radar. That sector is certainly strong, and it's one to be watched, and it's one to be reckoned with. And I think it's key to understand there's been so many IPOs this year, that you have to really start taking notice on the best in breed. Start doing your homework on finding the ones that really look good. There's a ton of them that have come on the radar that we talk about relatively, quite often in the chat room, but I think there's a few we're also missing. So I think it's just the community's job, my job, our job, really to try to find new ideas for all of us. What is going to be the next leader this year? Usually what happens is the leaders of the previous year are not normally the leaders, at least percentage-wise, the following year. So we got to find them, and that's the key, and that's what we're going to be looking for. So today we have a little bit of an uptick in the morning. Also, biotechs had a little bit of an okay day. PCYC, a little bit of the smaller biotechs had some okay days, okay, action. We'll have to see if that continues to any extent. But a little bit of an uptick today. We'll have to see if it's going to be a much slower day, knowing that, it's very snowy on the East Coast, and, I don't think a lot of people are making it to work. But either way, I think overall, it's going to be stock specific. It's going to continue to be stock specific, and you just got to watch the price action accordingly. Hopefully you have a good day. Enjoy if you're home. Stay warm, and I'll talk to you all later.